The United Nations has said that it is ready to help supervise Yemen's vital Hodeidah port to protect it from potential destruction. This after its envoy met with the managers of the Houthi-held harbour. Western countries are in fact pressing for a ceasefire and renewed peace efforts to end the country's 3-year-old conflict. This pressure comes amidst fears that almost about 14 million people could soon be hit by starvation. Now, the United Nations envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, has said that the United Nations' role as a supervisor will preserve the essential humanitarian pipeline. The Pakistani police have arrested almost about 100 members of the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan in a late-night operation. The radical Islamist party's chief Khadim Hussain Rizvi, who had called for a protest against the acquittal of the Christian woman Asia Bibi, has been taken into what is being described as protective custody. A senior police officer has also said that the government officials and clerics had persuaded Khadim Rizvi in Lahore to defer their 25th of November protest, but he had not agreed. The Federal Information Minister, however, has tweeted saying that the arrest has nothing to do with Asia Bibi. Now, hundreds of Central American migrants have vowed to stay put until they get asylum from the United States. The migrants who arrived at the Chaparral border crossing, and they are sleeping on the streets and also dependent on food handouts. And they are waiting for their asylum applications to be heard, which could take almost up to 6 months. Now, earlier this week, United States President Donald Trump had threatened to shut the entire border with Mexico. Now, in a big statement, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has likened the Kartarpur corridor to the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has welcomed the corridor between India and Pakistan. Hailing the move, the Indian Prime Minister has said that Kartarpur could prove to be more than just a religious corridor and has the potential to bring together people from both sides of the border. The winds gusting up to almost about 70 kilometers per hour fanned major bushfires on Australia's east coast, threatening homes and forcing evacuations. A Boeing 737 modified for use as a water bomber was also used to fight the bushfires and fires around the popular tourist spot of Port Stephens, nearly about 200 kilometers north of Sydney, and it also has forced an evacuation of residents, and there are no reports so far of any injuries or loss of property. The strong winds across Australia's southeast coast also have caused commuter chaos at Sydney and Melbourne airports. Sri Lanka's deposed Prime Minister has secured control of a key committee in the Parliament on Friday, dealing a big blow to the country's president in the latest twist in a month-long political crisis. Sri Lanka has in fact been politically paralysed since the 26th of October, when President Maithripala Sirisena had sacked Ranil Wickremesinghe as Premier and replaced him with the divisive former leader Mahinda Rajapakse. Now, the vote has given Wickremesinghe control of a select committee entrusted with setting up the legislative agenda in the absence of a working government. Now, Spain says that a Brexit deal should make it clear that Madrid will have a direct say as to how the future relationship between European Union and Britain will impact Gibraltar, and this will have to be discussed bilaterally. Now, Spain has said that it will vote against the current Brexit draft proposal due to lack of clarity on the disputed British overseas territory of Gibraltar, and wants it made clear in the text of the proposal that decisions on Gibraltar, a peninsula of the south of Spain, must in fact be agreed upon bilaterally between Spain and Britain. A Brexit-themed shop has opened its doors to Londoners to highlight the alleged consequences of Britain leaving the European Union. The stunt was in fact organised by the People's Vote, a campaign group calling for a public vote on the final deal between Britain and the European Union to draw attention to the issues that they say will in fact come up from leaving the European Union, such as inflation, unregulated food supplies and even job losses.
I declare this Brexit mini-march.
France has agreed to return 26 African artworks claimed by Benin. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron had formally received a report to recommend changes to the French law to allow cultural artifacts seized from former African colonies to be returned to their home countries. Now, the report by the Senegalese economist Felwine Sarr and French art historian Benedict Savoy marked a potential milestone in the fight by the African countries to recover works pillaged by Western explorers and colonizers. The Zimbabwe's police and the parliament security removed opposition legislators from the parliament after they refused to stand when President Emmerson Mnangagwa entered the parliament. The scuffle between the opposition lawmakers and the police started ahead of the budget speech when the parliament speaker ordered the police to remove the members. The Japanese city of Osaka will host the 2025 World Expo after beating Yekaterinburg in Russia and Baku in Azerbaijan in a vote to host the fair. The delegation erupted in celebrations as the vote was announced, and members of the Bureau International des Expositions in Paris held a ballot after representatives from the three candidate cities made their final presentations of their proposals earlier in the day. The World Expo events, which costs millions of dollars to prepare and lasts almost up to 6 months, can in fact help shine a spotlight on host cities, drawing visitors from home and abroad.
Impressive victory.
A suicide blast at a mosque in an army base in eastern Afghanistan has killed at least about 26 people and has wounded 50 others. The victims had in fact gathered for Friday prayers in the mosque in the Ismail Khail district of Khost province, and all those killed in the suicide attack were working for the Afghan security forces. The Friday's attack came 3 days after a suicide bomber detonated his explosives at a gathering of religious scholars in Kabul. The Indian consular team was stopped by Pakistani security officials yet again at the Nankana Sahib Gurudwara, and this comes amidst pro-Khalistan posters which cropped up for the second day near the Nankana Sahib Gurudwara in Pakistan. The devotees from around the world congregated to celebrate the Hindu festival of Dev Diwali, or Diwali of the gods, in India's spiritual town of Varanasi. The Dev Diwali is in fact celebrated on the 15th day after Diwali, the festival of lights, and it is celebrated on the full moon day in the Kartik month of the Hindu calendar as a tribute to the river Ganges. Now, the steps of the banks of the river Ganges in fact sparkled with more than 100,000 earthen lamps. And Bollywood actor Anil Kapoor and India's Railway Minister Piyush Goyal were also present to witness the spectacle of the occasion. The hundreds of devotees gathered to pray to first Sikh Guru Nanak Dev on his 449th birth anniversary in a brightly lit golden temple, Sikhism's holiest shrine in India's northern Amritsar city. In the morning, devotees in fact took a dip in the holy water inside of the temple premises, and the picturesque fireworks dominated the night skyline. In the capital city of New Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with several ministers, also attended the festivities and has wished the nation. Thousands of demonstrators clashed with the police in Haiti's capital on Friday, demanding the ouster of President Jovenel Moise amidst the sixth day of protests. The police have also fired tear gas at the crowd as people threw rocks and also tried to loot stores, schools and most government offices remained closed. The protesters have accused Moise of not investigating allegations of corruption in the previous administration over a Venezuelan subsidized energy program. Moise has said that he will not resign though. The hundreds of demonstrators joined an anti-government march in Prague as the Czech coalition government has survived a no-confidence vote in parliament over a fraud scandal implicating Prime Minister Andreas Babis. Babis, in fact, is facing charges of misusing the European Union subsidies for a farm that he had transferred to his relatives, including his son. Andreas Babis, the Czech leader, has been under increased pressure after his son said that he was deliberately kept in Crimea to avoid being questioned in the case. Electronics giant Samsung has apologized to workers who developed cancer after working at its semiconductor factories, and this has ended a decade-long dispute with the world's top chip maker. The campaign groups have said that about 240 people have suffered from work-related illnesses and around 80 of them have died. The company will in fact pay the employees compensation of up to $133,000 per case. The compensation covers almost about 16 types of cancer and some other rare illnesses. Thrill seekers alike gathered on the rooftop of King Power Mahanochan's building to pose for the picturesque shots of the Mahanochan Skywalk, now described as one of the world's largest glass tray floors. The bridge measures almost about 63 square meters and 310 meters in height. The building also has a rooftop bar and a taller 360-degree observation deck standing at a whopping 314 meters high, where visitors can watch Bangkok's sunset behind Thailand's capital city. Now, NBA star Stephen Curry did not suffer from any injuries after his car was hit twice on Friday. The first collision occurred at around 9 a.m. A driver, in fact, hit Curry's car on the highway, according to California's High Patrol. And the next incident occurred just 10 minutes later. Curry had, in fact, been sidelined from his NBA duties after he had suffered a groin injury on the 8th of November. A thief in Russia has shattered an ATM in broad daylight and then fled with just a tray of counterfeit bills. The CCTV footage released by the Interior Ministry shows the man tearing open the automatic teller machine. He was later arrested and is presently facing criminal prosecution charges.